Here's how we would frame all of this. We're at a really pivotal point.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a practicing designer for 35 years. There have maybe been 2 or 3 times in that entire span where we have truly been challenged by an event or an advancement to rethink things significantly going forward, but never to the level that we're talking about right now. The whole world is asking us what the future of work will be. And they're not asking what the future of workplace will be. It is the future of work and how we do that and what that should be. Now, for people like myself and HOK, we spend a tremendous amount of time looking at the future and future casting and looking at what could come. And the challenge for us in this day and age right now is that people are so focused on, being reactive that COVID has been an accelerant. And it's an accelerant for one of 2 things. It's either going to fuel your fears and make you retreat backwards to the 1970s, throwing up panels and screens and isolating everybody again and reverting backwards. Or it could propel us forward and get us 5 or 10 years further ahead of where we are now, which quite frankly, we need to do. We are going to make a plea for everyone to take a moment and to take a breath and to realize that there were a lot of things that were not working beforehand. And this has shed a light on a lot of those things. The commute, the fact that we're burning out, the fact that we're so stressed, the fact that we are not making as much progress on environmental sustainability as we would like. Those are things, the fact that technology is rapidly advancing and we've got to be able to keep up with it. And the fact that people expect better today. And so all of those things were already at a pivotal point. And what we see right now is if we as an industry do not rise to the occasion, if we get caught up in the conversation about plastic screens and all of that, and by the way, I do talk about that almost every day with some clients. Got it? I do.
Yeah.
You have to. But if we also don't implore everyone to think bigger and to address those other things that we already know are there that are going to impact us, this really could be our Kodak moment. We have got to think bigger. And so, we believe that going forward, work really is going to create, it's going to be an ecosystem of places. And so many of the discussions in the last 12 weeks have been everybody work from home or everybody has to be in the office. And the answer is it's not a binary choice. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
Yep.
There's a lot of gray, and we have to define that gray. And not everybody needs to go into the city every day.
Right.
Not everybody can and or should work from home. There are pluses and minuses to both. And I think so many people are getting caught up in the debate that they're picking one side versus the other, and that's a false narrative.
Right.
We need to be encouraging people to do is to figure out, does anybody miss the commute? I haven't heard a single person say, my God, I really miss the commute. Now, on the same hand, if you don't have the commute, the transition between work and life just blurs,
right?
And it becomes another challenge, right? So for almost every single one of these things that we have to address, we also have to understand there's a side effect to it. If we de-densify the workplaces, then we're changing the acoustical issues in those spaces and creating new ones. We throw up plastic screens all over the place. It's more things that need to be clean, and it has an impact on acoustics, right? So we need to stop being reactionary. We need to stop being all is one or the other. And we need to think more holistically about a variety of solutions that everybody can choose, whether it's a large corporation, a small startup, or an individual worker, whether you're in the suburbs or not. And so you start to see this development of a variety of solutions. And those solutions, and we've talked about this for a long time, that in the workplace, there's a variety of tasks that you're doing. And so you need a variety of settings to do those tasks. Well, you need the same variety when it comes to where you're doing those tasks, how you're doing those tasks, when you're doing those tasks, what technology you're doing those tasks with, and how you're connecting and collaborating with others. Because every solution has its faults and its promises. And so the only thing I think that we really believe we can do, because of the variety of people, the variety of tasks, the variety of scenarios, is to create this ecosystem that can be leveraged and used with intelligence and empower people and companies to do so. Yeah, I think there's a few things. I think we're going to have a little bit of a rocky start. Okay, because I think we're underestimating some things and we're trying to oversimplify things. Just because people worked from home for the last 12 weeks and survived doesn't mean that they thrived, right? There were a lot of people that really struggled. You know, innovation might not have been as successful. We're already seeing that learning remotely for most students was a serious challenge. Yeah. And so that we really haven't done the full analysis. Yes, we were able to do that, you know, but just because you're able to do something doesn't mean you can or should. Look, people have been working from home for 50 years. What we've learned is that not everybody is suited to do it. Not every company or their mission is suited to allow it. And you need to put in guidelines and parameters. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're going to struggle. What we're seeing with some of the barriers and the boundaries, et cetera, you know, we've had them before. And they came down for a reason. If I'm going to the office to be with people, but now I'm barricaded
in a cubicle or in a box,
place, and I'm afraid to move, all of those things are counterintuitive, and they probably are not going to be long-lived. I mean, you know, until we have a vaccine or until we have herd immunity or until people are just like, we can't deal with it anymore, those are very practical things, and there are things that we should be doing, but I think we need to be very careful about that. And hopefully what it will do is put back an emphasis on the notion that design, if a space is designed well, then we can intuitively guide people to make those right choices and decisions. I can design a space where you're not going to be 6 feet apart. I don't have to put X's all over the place, right? I can design intuitive wayfinding and intuitive flow through space. And so we need to be able to do that a little bit more artistically. And that's going to take a little, you know, that's not going to happen instantly, but that will happen over time. And so I think it'll also help us realize it will increase our sensitivity to surroundings and sensory stimulation. It will increase our sensitivity to cleanliness, but I'm willing to bet right now, most people that are working from home probably have never cleaned the desk that they're working on right now.
You had mentioned in a couple of your articles, using smart materials, going back to the idea of, you know, we're going to think more sustainably, hopefully, in office design. Can you talk a little bit about how COVID-19 you think will influence these kind of smart materials? What are they? And does that also mean that there will sort of be that continued trend of maybe nature inspired or nature focused type designs, like with plants everywhere or plant walls? Or
so we highly encourage biophilia in introduction to biophilia. I will say that if I never see a perfectly vertical straight plant wall again in my life, I would be more than happy, because you know that is our interpretation of trying to do it and have some control and order versus a more organic thing. And I think we put way too much emphasis just on plants. Nowhere in nature do you have square white boxes.
Right.
And that's what most of us end up sitting in. And so whether it's organic shapes, whether it's introducing of wood elements, whether it's organic patterns, whether it's the sounds of nature, whether it's the smells, whether it's, nowhere in nature is lighting, usually perfectly uniform either, except for maybe some places where it's totally vast, but there's fluctuating lighting levels. And so, there's a whole variety of ways that we can create biophilic experiences that have nothing to do with plants. And sticking a plant in a corner and calling it a day is the least that we should be doing. We need to be thinking more intelligently about how do we emulate and or mimic nature and natural elements more holistically in spaces.
What other trends, I guess you could call it trends, do you see happening now and going forward that would help boost productivity or, get people to increase someone's well-being now that we're, phasing out of lockdowns?
So a few things, and I'm going to challenge one notion. For years, our industry has been so focused on productivity, and we have to produce things. Okay, I'm not saying that we don't, and that we have to focus to some degree on productivity, but I think it's a red herring. Okay, when we talk to CEOs, what is keeping them up at night is their inability to innovate fast enough. Mm-hmm. Very few CEOs, with a few exceptions, and there are some. Elon Musk being one, but very few CEOs are kept up at night because of somebody, how much square footage somebody is sitting in, and or that Johnny can't produce a widget fast enough. Okay. Mm-hmm. If you look at what has rocked our industry, rocked our world, Airbnb did not create a hotel room faster. They changed the entire experience. They shifted it. Uber did not get you anywhere faster. They changed the way that you did it and the convenience, etc. Most of the innovations, the significant innovations that we have seen, are not focused on producing the same thing faster. It's about changing what it is you're giving people or offering people, changing that experience, making it more convenient, making it better. And so what is keeping most companies up at night today is, can we innovate fast enough to even stay relevant? And it's hard to innovate when everybody is isolated, right? And so this ability or desire for people to come together, to ideate and to create is really, really pivotal in today's day and age. That's what we should be focusing on. Because if the environments that we're creating and providing don't allow people to innovate, don't allow access to decision makers, don't break down the silos and enable people to do things more quickly, then they're really kind of all for naught. And I want you to think, one of the hidden things that not a lot of people have spoken about in this COVID world is the notion that when push came to shove, you did what you had to do. Mm-hmm. If in January, I would have gone to one of my big corporate clients and said, you know what, in March, we're going to try an experiment and we're all going to work from home for a week. We would have had task force and committees and all these, all of these things that would have been put in place. We had no warning, or we ignored the warning. Yeah. And we ended up having to do it in a day. And I think a lot of our corporate clients are really kind of amazed at, we did that. Mm-hmm. We broke down the silos in our company, and we did, the speed of which companies were able to do that was really pretty astonishing. You didn't have to have a big committee and a big task force and all these things that we put into place, and so I think what a lot of companies have realized is that their internal silos and their internal structures and their internal processes are inhibiting their ability to act quickly and to make decisions. And quite frankly, when push came to shove, they did it. And most people would say that their leadership, they feel more connected to their leadership because the leadership has had to come out from behind their suites and be front facing and really communicate to their employees. Now, can we live by this crisis crisis du jour every day? No. But I think smart companies are realizing we can do things a lot faster if we need to, and we need to figure out how do we keep that momentum up. So I think that's one of the lessons that smart companies are going to take away from this.
So on that, I wanted to talk about, we're a tech company. So of course, so I wanted to talk a little bit about the technologies you're seeing that could be increasingly important as we're going back to the office. You know, I know you said in a couple of your articles that touchless or contact-free technology is very important. That is something that we're thinking about. In terms of visitor management, how to, have people just scan a QR code to get into the building without touching anything. What other technologies are you seeing that could be important?
Here's to sum up how I feel about technology and where we are. The auto industry is kicking our ass. They are kicking our ass right now. If you think about this, you can buy a car that when you have a fob in your pocket, you don't even have to take it out. You walk up to that car, it unlocks. In some cases, the door will open. You get into the car and everything in the car adjusts to your preferences. The seat, the mirrors, the steering column, and your preset preferences for the temperature, the lighting levels, the radio, the music, all adjust to you. Your phone syncs with the dashboard, and all of your information is pulled up, and you can say to the store, and the car, will route you to the store. And I mean, it'll even drive you to the store at this point. Like, seriously, it'll back up for you. That is the experience right now that we have had for a few years in the auto industry. Now I want to take you to the office. Most of us are still crawling around under our desk trying to find an outlet.
Right.
Nothing responds to us. Nothing. And that's where we spend a significant part of the day. We are so far behind in that realm and in that type of experience that it's kind of frightening, quite frankly. And it's not like we don't have the ability, we do. So why hasn't it happened? Well, part of the reason it hasn't happened is because when you buy a car, you can choose the economy level, or you can pay for that experience. In workplaces today, your employer is making a decision for a mass group of people and typically wants everybody to have the same experience. And so it's usually, I don't want to say the lowest common denominator, but we're not going for that luxury workstation for every single employee. You just have too many of them. As long as we have assigned seating, everybody's desk kind of has to be the same. Okay. But if we go to a scenario where we have unassigned seating and we have fewer work points because there aren't as many people there at any given time, and some people might be working from home, or I might be in a conference room all day and not sitting at a desk. If we have fewer work points, then maybe we can have better work points. And maybe those work points are more intuitive. And maybe when I walk up to that work point, it knows it's me. The height of the work surface adjusts to my preset preference. My phone and my technology syncs with the monitor that is there. The height of that monitor adjusts so that it meets my ergonomic needs. My phone calls are routed to that location. The lighting level is adjusted, the temperature preference, the airflow might be increased or decreased. And while I'm sitting there, I could decide, let's just, before I even sit there, let's take another scenario. Let's take the scenario that I'm sitting at home and I'm like, all right, we can all work from home now, but we can also go into the office. But I'm going to the office because I want to meet with my colleagues. So I can pull up an app and say, hey guys, we need to meet. What day works for everybody? Okay, Thursday. We're all going to be in the office on Thursday. So let's go to neighborhood B and let's all find spots in neighborhood B that we can kind of sit down or be our home base for that day. So I know when I'm going in that my colleagues are going to be there and that we're going to be in the general vicinity with each other, and we've booked whatever it is that we need. When I arrive at the building, it knows that I'm coming because I've already signed up to be there that day. So facial recognition acknowledges that it's me. It lets me in. I can go right in. It tells me we've reserved a locker for you so you can put all your things. The door, when I'm walking up to the door, it recognizes me via biometrics and opens the door so I don't have to touch the door. I can go to my locker, it recognizes me, opens up, put my things in it, automatically locks. I go to my work point that knows that I am coming, and everything is adjusted for me, and all my content is already loaded up so I don't have to log in and load up and do all this stuff. When I go, I get an emergency phone call. You call me and I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta talk to her. And I walk over to a quiet space, and again, it follows me, and all of my information automatically pulls up on that system so that I don't have to fuddle around with things. When I go to leave, it alerts the system that the desk I was using is now free for others, but has not been cleaned. And so then it can tell the cleaning people to come over just in time cleaning and clean that and free it up in the system. And while I'm sitting there that day, let's say I reserved a spot for 4 hours, but you know what? Joe is sitting next to me and he is loud. And it's hotter in this side of the building than I thought it was going to be because the sun is coming in and whatever. So I can pull up an app and I can say, all right, where is it quiet? And it will show me a heat map of the floor. It will show me from all the sensors in the ceiling what parts of the floor are busier and more congested than others. It will show me the acoustic levels. So if I decide I want to be in a sunny spot because I'm freezing, but I don't want it to be really loud, I can put in those parameters and it will say, this spot on this side of the building is a lot quieter, a little bit warmer, and off the beaten path. We recommend you go there. And I'm like, great, I'm done, I'm going over there. So it empowers me to make better choices based on the situation at hand. That is when our spaces start becoming more responsive. I can decide, I want a cup of coffee. But I don't, what is the wait like? Oh, there's a queue of 6 people. Okay, well, I'm going to place an order and I'm going to pick it up in 5 minutes. And 5 minutes later, I walk by, my coffee is sitting there just like, at a Starbucks. You grab it and you go. You don't have to loiter around, right?
So cool.
We have the ability to do all of that today. We just need to do it.
When do you think that this is going to be the catalyst for going in this direction, for having these kind of specific experiences for each employee, or do you think we have a long way to go?
I would love to think that it's the accelerant. Okay, yeah. Because companies like the Cube in Berlin, or the Edge in Amsterdam, or Edge Olympic in Amsterdam have already started down this road of trying to create some of those types of experiences. What we need is for other people to pick up the charge and to pick up the gauntlet and to continue that forward. And this notion right now that nobody wants to touch anything, how do you create a touchless environment, I think will absolutely be an accelerant for how do we move forward.
So interesting. Wow, I want to fast forward to this.
Yeah, I mean, every building, you kind of have 3 things right now. You have the buildings that exist that we're trying to retrofit. You have the buildings and the projects that are on the board that we're trying to enhance. And you have the projects that are yet to come that hopefully all of these things will be applied and really could be the spaces of the future.
That's amazing. That seems so cool. I just want to, fast forward to that point. But
we have another little challenge on that one, though. The challenge on that one is, even before COVID, and even now with with people working from home more, this whole notion of do we really need to keep building buildings, right? And maybe the most adaptive reuse is huge. And so I do believe, hopefully, any building that is built in the future will be an intelligent, smart building because we have the ability to do that. But I think there's going to be a lot of effort put into how do we go back and adapt some of these existing buildings, because
Yeah.
the most sustainable building we can have today is one that that already exists, that we don't have to build, that we can just improve and extend the life of.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to be able to figure out ways that we can do that.
Yep. Very important. There's a lot of information covered. I have one more question for you. As a workplace strategy expert, what do you think, I mean, we've kind of already touched on some of these, but what do you think the skills of the workplace strategist of the future, of this future office, what do they need to be?
I think they need to understand human dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
I think that far too long we have ignored the true dynamics. We're improving certain elements within the workplace and focused on things like productivity. Look, 80% of a company's money goes to their people. If people don't feel comfortable or don't feel safe or don't feel at ease, they will not create. They will not be productive. They will not be as engaged or empowered. This whole debate about productivity, again, I said it was kind of a little bit of a red herring. I'm going to put $1,000 on the table and say that a happy, healthy, engaged, empowered worker who feels safe will be more productive and innovative than a disgruntled, unhappy, unproductive person that feels they're in harm's way. We know. And what we need to do is to really, truly focus on human dynamics, on human-centric measurements. Our industry for so long is focused on cost per square foot or square foot per person. Who cares? Real estate, quite frankly, I don't want to say it's cheap, but it's cheap compared to the cost of people. If I do anything to negatively impact the productivity of your people, and that's 80% of where your money is going to, I could cost you more money than I save you. We need to think about how are we putting people in the best scenario to be as innovative and productive as they can be. And what are those social dynamics? And everybody working from home, that might solve some problems, but it creates other ones, and we need to acknowledge that. There's isolation. There's, it starts, for some people, it's impossible to blur life and work, and it just all melds together. And so we really need to think about how are we tapping into people's true potential and leveraging that to the best of our ability. And I think one of the things that we're seeing is this old way of employment is probably broken. Right now we're living in this, you're either full-time or you're unemployed, where quite frankly, there's a whole lot of gray. Mm-hmm. And we have a whole lot of people now that have entered into the gig economy. And most companies never have the right number of people for the task at hand. And we could learn a lesson from just-in-time manufacturing. We could learn just-in-time staffing, where, if I need 100 people to do, to function as a company, maybe I have 40 or 50 that are core employees. And then I have 150 that are on retainer that I can leverage or tap into as needed. And the benefit to them is they might get benefits. They might have, the healthcare or whatever benefits. They might have access to my innovation center. They have a certain guaranteed number of hours, but they aren't, they don't have to sit there for 40 hours a week, right? All the time. They have that flexibility. And the other thing that this might allow us to do is a huge percentage of people that are neurodiverse or have anxiety or mental health challenges, or people that have physical disabilities, or people that have life situations that are challenging, can't work full time, or can't come to an office every day and function. And so there's a whole part of the viable workforce that we can't tap into because the system of how we employ people is so rigid. So we need to think about how do we change that. And we need to also think about how do we embed lifelong learning or even sabbaticals into our careers, because a 4-year education is not going to carry you for a 40 or 50-year career.
Right.
We have
Yeah,
to
very
address
true.
those things.
Very, very true.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to ask you. We covered, I took a lot of your time. Thank you so
No
much for everything.
Sounds good. And let me know if you need
Perfect.
anything else from me.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Thank
Good luck
you.
with
Talk to you
everything.
soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.